Mysterious abductions, disappearances, and fatalities. With no suspect in sight, these cases have yet to be resolved after a number of years. This is what we're going to be discussing in today's video, but I must tell you that this is Reaper House, and viewer discretion is advised. In the winter of 1923, in one of Oregon's national forests, Deschutes, 3 men would embark on a daring adventure into the heart of the wilderness. Edward Nichols, Roy Wilson, and Dewey Morris, seasoned fur trappers from Bend, Oregon, sought shelter in a rustic log cabin owned by a local contractor, Edward Logan. Their plan was to spend the winter trapping fur in the remote wilderness near Little Lava Lake. Turning in furs in exchange for some extra coin was a great way to make a living at the time, and Oregon is a prime spot to be a fur trapper. And for reference, Bend, Oregon is one of the last towns right before heading into Deschutes National Forest. And by 1920, the county was at a population of 5,600 and was mostly a logging town for the most part. The trio's venture seemed promising. Edward, in high spirits, had recently returned from a successful trip to Bend, where he sold a sled loaded with valuable furs. Confidence began to increase with the group as they settled into their isolated cabin, nestled among towering pines with snow-filled branches. It's easy to imagine how peaceful this must have been. Oregon and its vegetation truly is beautiful. Yet, as the winter months wore on, an eerie silence descended upon the forest in which the trio had set camp. With no word from the trappers, and with signs of their trapping lines left unattended, concern grew among their friends and family back in the small town of Bend. Something was wrong, and it wasn't long before these friends and family began to do something about it. In April of 1924, a search party ventured into the wilderness, their hearts heavy with dread, and for good reason, because what they ended up finding would chill them to the bone. The cabin, once a safe place of warmth and camaraderie, now lay eerily abandoned. Burnt remnants of meals lingered on the stove, and the air was heavy with an ominous stillness. Outside, further clues awaited discovery. The sled, vital for transporting goods, was missing. Its absence was a harsh indication of trouble. Nearby, a blood-stained claw hammer lay discarded in the snow, a grim harbinger of violence. As the search expanded, the chilling truth revealed itself. Near Big Lava Lake, the men's sled was found, its surface stained with dark, ominous patches. None of the searchers were too sure about what these dark stains could be. It was later to be confirmed as blood. With the most grisly discovery awaited beneath the frozen surface of Little Lava Lake, a discovery no one could ever imagine. There, amidst the icy depths, lay the bodies of Nichols, Wilson, and Morris. Autopsies revealed a grim tale of murder. Gunshots and blunt force trauma inflicted upon the unsuspecting trappers. The investigation cast a shadow of suspicion over the tranquil forest. One name emerged from the darkness: Charles Kimsey, a figure with a troubled past and connections to the victims. Yet, despite several leads and a worthy pursuit, justice remained elusive. Years would eventually turn into decades, but the mystery of the Lava Lake murders endured, leaving a mark on Oregon's history as one of its oldest unsolved crimes. The wilderness held its secrets close, leaving behind only whispers of a tragedy that still echoes through the towering pines and frozen lakes of Deschutes County. To this day, this case is still cold. On a summer day in 1985, 27-year-old Stephen Harkins and his partner, 42-year-old Ruth Cooper, embarked on a weekend getaway to Lake Toole in Washington, seeking a quick break from the city and its people into the wilderness that Washington had to offer. Little did they know, this journey would lead them into a nightmare from which they would never return. They were both in training to become machinists, as a vocational school, with Stephen juggling work as a truck driver alongside of studies. Ruth, a single mother of 5, balanced her responsibilities while also nurturing her relationship with Stephen. The couple had been dating for 3 years and had shared a home together for 2. Their shared passion for the outdoors drew them to camping adventures whenever they could steal away from their busy lives. So on the evening of Saturday, August 10th, in 1985, Stephen and Ruth attended a friend's wedding reception in Tacoma before embarking on a weekend camping trip to Tule Lake. Nestled near the towns of Yelm and Roy in southern Pierce County, Washington, their plan was to return home Sunday evening refreshed from their time in nature. However, when Monday arrived and Stephen and Ruth failed to show up for work, concern rippled through their families. Their absence triggered immediate alarm, prompting their loved ones to report them missing without delay. That same day, a passing motorist noticed the couple's Volkswagen station wagon parked near Tule Lake, but thought little of it at the time. It wasn't until 2 days later, on August 14th, that the significance of the abandoned vehicle became apparent. Upon closer inspection, the motorist made a grim discovery. Stephen's lifeless body lay in the front seat, wrapped in a sleeping bag. A fatal wound to his forehead revealed the chilling truth. He had been ruthlessly murdered in his sleep. Meanwhile, their loyal hunting dog was found slain 800 yards away, adding another layer of tragedy to the scene. Ruth's shoes were discovered nearby, but she was nowhere to be found, leaving authorities to suspect she had been abducted. Despite exhaustive searches by her family in the surrounding woods, Ruth remained missing for some time. That is, until 2 months later, a shocking discovery was revealed, which further revealed the tragic tale of Ruth's fate. On October 26, hunters traversing the stretch of 8th Avenue South near Hart's Lake stumbled upon Ruth's skull, lying abandoned like a grim reminder of the past, located a mere 1.5 miles from where Stephen's lifeless body had been found. And in just 2 days later, on October 28th, another chilling discovery was made from the dense undergrowth nearby. Ruth's lifeless body, concealed within the heavy brush. It was revealed that a fatal wound to her abdomen would be the cause for her death. Her existence cut short in a moment of unfathomable cruelty. And yet, even in death, the horrors continued, with a tube sock tightly wrapped around her neck. Now, Stephen and Ruth were not the only victims of the tube sock killer. Police investigations have drawn eerie connections between the murders of Stephen and Ruth with the disappearances of Deanna Robertson, along with her boyfriend Mike Reamer. Deanna and Mike, residents of Puyallup, Washington, set out on the morning of December 12, 1985, for a day of adventure in the mountains near Tacoma. Their plan? To find the perfect Christmas tree while Mike checked his animal traps along the river's winding path. But the day soon took a chilling turn that no one would ever expect. Later that afternoon, 2-year-old Crystal Louise, the daughter of Deanna and Mike, was discovered outside a Kmart department store in Spanaway, Washington, miles away from their planned outing. Silent and visibly shaken, Crystal's presence without her parents raised immediate concern. Rushed to a local hospital and later placed in a temporary foster care, she became the focal point of a growing mystery. The following day, Crystal and her parents were reported missing, triggering a frantic search that yielded no answers. 2 days later, a nurse recognized Crystal from a news broadcasting, leading to her placement with Deanna's mother, Louise Conrad. When questioned about her parents' whereabouts, all Crystal could mumble was a haunting phrase: "Mommy is in the trees." Months passed with no sign of Mike and Diana until February 18th, 1986, when a chilling discovery was made along a logging road in the forests of Lewis County, Washington. Diana's partially decomposed body lay amidst the snow, and as if it wasn't chilling enough, her body was littered by 17 stab wounds and yet again another tube sock tightly tied around her neck. This scene echoed the horror of Stephen and Ruth's murders just 15 miles away, where their bodies were discovered. Detective David Neeser, of the Lewis County Sheriff's Department made a chilling connection when examining the sock found around Ruth's neck. The realization struck him. The socks found on both victims were identical. The link between the crimes sent shivers down the spines of investigators, painting a grim portrait of intertwined fates and unspeakable horrors lurking within the Pacific Northwest. As of today, this case is still cold. This next case is just as odd and eerie as the others. On the evening of December 18th, 1998, chaos erupted in the tranquil neighborhood of Tacoma, Washington, as multiple frantic 911 calls flooded in, reporting a violent altercation unfolding within a neighbor's home. Eyewitnesses recounted the scene. A 26-year-old woman and her 2 young children were seen in front of the front yard, accompanied by an unfamiliar man. Suddenly, terror struck as the man brandished a menacing baseball bat, chasing the woman into her own home. In a heart-wrenching moment, the children, tears streaming down their faces, obediently followed their mother inside, unaware of the nightmare that awaited them. The cries for help would be heard all throughout the neighborhood, as shouts, screams, and the shattering of glass reverberated from within the besieged house. Sensing the urgency of the situation, neighbors wasted no time in summoning law enforcement. Their pleas for intervention increased the urgency of the tragedy. As police rushed to the scene on East 40th Street in Tacoma, a horrifying escalation unfolded before their eyes. A sudden explosion ripped through the once quiet home, engulfing the home in a blaze of flames. In a desperate bid for escape, the assailant burst through the back door, narrowly evading the consuming flames, leaving devastation behind him. Despite the valiant efforts of first responders, the flames would rage on and would consume the woman's house with such destruction. The fire department arrived fairly quick, their mission twofold: to shut down the inferno and to rescue any survivors trapped within. Yet amid the clouds of black smoke and searing heat, tragedy would eventually loom. Amidst the charred remains, rescuers made a harsh discovery: the woman and her 2 precious children. In the wake of a tragic incident, the victims were identified as Linda Tran, a 26-year-old mother, alongside her 9-year-old daughter, Patricia Tran, and her 22-month-old son, Austin Tran. Another discovery emerged that Linda was also 7 months pregnant at the time, the unborn child tragically perishing alongside her. With plans for the future already in place, Linda had chosen the name Joshua for her unborn baby. As the medical examiner conducted the autopsy, another level of horror was unveiled. Each victim had succumbed to a brutal combination of severe blunt force trauma, smoke inhalation, and the searing agony of thermal burns. Further examination of the scene unveiled chilling evidence of premeditation. Surfaces within the house had the telltale signs of an accelerant to start the fire, confirming the suspicions of arson, triggering an explosion of devastating force that tore through the very walls of the house, leaving behind a huge hole of destruction. The ferocity of the blaze spoke volumes of the perpetrator's intent to obliterate all traces of evidence of this heinous crime. Later on, investigators pieced together fragments of witnesses' testimonies in a quest for justice. Descriptions painted a portrait of the assailant: a dark-skinned, possibly Asian or black male, aged 30 to 35, dressed in dark attire and a black neck cap with a muscular build. Yet even as the flames subdued and the mystery deepened, reports surfaced of the assailant fleeing the scene, escaping into the night in a dark-colored sedan. In the sedan, witnesses were noted saying that there was another person in the car waiting for the suspect. It seemed he had a getaway car and a driver ready at his disposal. Despite extensive efforts to uncover the truth, Linda's personal life would result to no immediate answers, leaving investigators grappling with the chilling crime seemingly dropped right in front of them. Following the gruesome murders, investigators were determined for answers, looking into every facet of Linda Tran's life in search of clues. Suspicions initially veered towards Linda's recent boyfriend, identified as the father of her unborn child, Joshua. However, Linda's family harbored their own reservations, directing attention towards a former flame in Linda's romantic history. With determination bordering on relentlessness, authorities tracked down each potential suspect, conducting interviews with the fathers of Linda's children and ex-boyfriends singled out by her family. Despite initial speculation, investigators ultimately cleared these individuals of involvement. Exploring alternate avenues, detectives explored the possibility of the murders being motivated by unpaid debts stemming from Linda's supposed gambling habits. Yet, this line of investigation yielded no tangible suspects, leaving detectives grappling for leads. Compounding the investigative challenge was the speech barrier hindering communication between law enforcement and Tacoma's Vietnamese community, further complicating efforts to obtain vital information from potential witnesses. A tangible lead surfaced in the form of a shattered window discovered at Linda's residence on the eve of the tragic events. Although Linda had alerted authorities to the break-in attempt, no intruders were found upon inspection. Speculation swirled regarding a potential connection between the shattered window and the subsequent murders, but no breakthroughs in the case would occur. At first, the media cast a sporadic spotlight on the case. Public interest waned over time, and the investigation gradually faded from the headlines. Despite sporadic coverage in the initial months, the case swiftly descended into obscurity, yielding no resolution. Now, years after the house explosion and March of 2015, Tacoma police detective Lindsay Wade reflected on the unsolved case, emphasizing the profound lack of clarity surrounding the motive behind the brutal murders. Wade speculated that the sheer brutality of the crime pointed towards a personal vendetta, suggesting potential involvement of someone intimately acquainted with Linda Tran. The chilling nature of the crime resonated deeply with Wade, particularly the senseless loss of Linda, her unborn child, Joshua, and her two innocent children. The grim reality of the unsolved case loomed large, haunting both investigators and the community alike. Linda's grief-stricken father, Kite Tran, issued a heartfelt plea to anyone who may hold any information pertaining to the murders. Overwhelmed by the weight of his loss, Kite expressed the mental toll the tragedy had placed on him, resulting in him unable to pursue his usual endeavors. His appeal highlighted the desperate need for closure and justice, urging individuals with knowledge of the case to come forward and assist law enforcement in their ongoing pursuit of truth and accountability. And to this day, Linda's case still remains cold. Well, those were our 3 cases, ladies and gentlemen. If you made it this far, I'd like to say thank you, and to also consider liking and subscribing, but only if you'd like. This is Rupert House. See you all next time.